Wednesday evening. I thought I'd chat. Haven't chatted to you guys in a while. I'm heading out of town tomorrow. I'll be flying out to Tulsa, Oklahoma to speak at, I guess it's called Thrive Time. It's an input of my guy named Clay Clark, who is kind of in the business world. And I'll be speaking alongside other guests, such as guys like Tim Tebow and some other, I guess, people that are I consider motivational or business savvy or something like that, which is good because I'm being exposed to wider and more broad audiences. And he says it typically there's anywhere between 75 and 125,000 people on the live streams. And so that's a good opportunity, kind of getting this message out here. I think the message is it's time has come for a broader audience to realize that nutrition and medicine have some real problems with it. We're trying to solve those things. I want to just tell you guys a couple, well, funny little story. So you've probably seen me wear this shirt before. It says, "No one is coming to save you," and it's a reference to the fact that we can't depend upon the government or some politician or our boss or whatever. I mean, to sort of save us in a way. I mean, it's a lot of it's on you. It's on us, all of us individually. I mean, there's no free lunches. You got to work hard. Um, Work smart, work intelligently, be efficient, all those types of things. Use your wits, use your God-given wits to do this. So it was kind of funny. I was taking the trash, tomorrow's trash day at the house here. And so I'll just show you my little backyard here. So this is, anyway, the driveway's kind of that way and the trash cans are over there. So I put them out. I had to walk out the garage, put them out there. And as I was walking out, a car pulls up. I said, "I don't know who these guys are." Two guys hop out, white shirts, wearing ties. I know who these guys are. So these are, Mormon missionary guys, Latter-day Saints guy coming in there to tell me about, have you heard the news type of thing? And, of course, I'm wearing a shirt that says, "No one is going to save you," which I thought was quite funny. And we had a good, we got a laugh and a good chuckle. And, we just, I was very, very nice. And they're nice kids, obviously. I'll look one of the, I got a UPS truck coming up the driveway. You guys can see here. Here he comes. I don't know what they're dropping off. Hopefully, my dogs are going crazy. Hopefully, it's some more meat. That'll be good. In fact, I think it is. I think it's some of the box from Better Fred Meat. I'm pretty sure they're supposed to come in today, which is good because I'll get it in the freezer before I go out of town. All right. Just got done working out. Did deadlifts 421 pounds for 20 reps pretty comfortably, probably. I anticipate I think I should be able to hit 450-ish for 20 reps. So I'm kind of working my way up there. I'm trying to stay strong as I lean out, and that's important. It doesn't do you a lot of good to lose a lot of weight and then lose muscle at the same time. So what keeps the muscle on you as you're losing weight? Well, it is weight training and eating adequate protein, right? Those are the things that are very helpful there. I'll share something I shared with you guys. I had a meeting with Revero the other day. As you guys know, I'm co-founder of a company called Revero. Our mission, we basically have physicians licensed in all 50 states, and we take people that are sick, and hopefully we get them not sick and try to get them off meds and those types of things. But I was talking to the group yesterday. I talked about, hey, just some topics I think are generally helpful, and I'll share that with you guys. Obviously, I love that we have customers and people that want to support us, but I think the message is, whether you are willing to support us financially or not, doesn't matter. The message is still important. And I think that, I talk about cravings because a lot of people are trying to clean up their diet. Maybe they're on some kind of, I don't know, a low carb elimination diet. It could be a keto diet. It could be a low carb diet. It could be a carnivore diet. And I said, cravings they're gonna happen. I mean, it just happens. And you have to think about one thing you have to understand is the physiology of cravings. And this isn't all of it, but in general, if you think about, like, I want you guys to imagine this. Imagine it's, I don't know, 8, 9 p.m. and you're kind of, you just want something to eat. You're just kind of looking around the cabinets. I want something, maybe something sweet. You're looking around those cabinets, looking for that piece of chocolate, stashed in the back of the cabinet, and darn it, someone got to it and it's gone, and you don't get it. And, you're kind of hungry and you go to bed, kind of like a little disappointed, but you go to bed and you wake up the next morning and you're not hungry. Almost like, wait a minute, 8, 9 hours ago, I was pretty hungry and now I'm not hungry. Why is that? Well, what is the reason for that? And some of you guys can probably realize that has happened before. What is happening is you have hormonal fluctuations, and one of them in particular called ghrelin, which some of you have heard of, tends to peak and often around 8 p.m. for some people. But the thing about cravings is they tend to be, because they're tied often to hormonal surges, those surges tend to be time limited. That is to say, typically about 30 to 45 minutes. And if you realize that and you know that, hey, I got this craving, but it's only gonna be around for about 45 minutes, then you have a strategy. And I talk about, what's your plan? What's your plan for cravings? And most people look at me with a blank look on their face. What do you mean plan? Plan for cravings? Well, yeah, of course. I mean, and I've, all of us have heard this saying before: if you fail to plan, then you just plan to fail. So, what is your plan when the cravings come? Right? So, you got to have a plan. And if you know it's going to be 45 minutes, you can plan for that. What can I do to distract myself for 45 minutes? Well, I can go for a walk. I can call somebody on the phone. I can do any number of things. Or perhaps I have a snack that's more appropriate, or I can just distend my stomach with fluid. I mean, that works too, believe it or not. There are literally studies. You can look up studies on there about drinking a lot of water and appetite suppression. And it usually lasts about 30 to 45 minutes. So there's things you can do. So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys. All right, let me answer a couple of questions. I'll see what I can get to. Like I said, I'll probably, I don't know, I've got another 30 minutes or so I can go with this, and then I got to go get back to work. Just say hi to people. A1 Meat Eater Kid says, hey, Dr. Baker. And we got R, that's kind of a descriptive name. Hey, Dr. Shawn Baker. Sheesh, how come you don't eat organs? That's a great question. I don't like them. As simple as that. I'm not going to eat food I don't like, right? I know that organs are not necessary. I know there's people out there preaching that, oh, the organs are the greatest thing and you got to have them, they're nutrient dense and all that stuff. And while that is true, there are a lot of nutrients in there. In my experience, and I am someone who has actually looked into this fairly, regularly, the organs are not necessary for long-term success on a carnivore diet. In fact, most of the people that have been promoting organs very aggressively, most of them are no longer carnivores. You probably noticed that. Also, some of them happen to be selling organ supplements, which also is kind of an interesting conflict of interest, I'd say. There are certainly people that like them, and if you like them, eat them. There are certainly people that notice some level of benefit from them, and if that's the case, go for it. It might be, I suspect, in some cases, it's a short-term thing, or maybe you're particularly nutrient depleted initially, and it might be a way to shore up a few extra nutrients, some fat-soluble vitamins and things like that, perhaps. But in the long term, I just don't think they're necessary. And most people, and again, I'm humble enough to admit, or I shouldn't say humble enough. I'm not. I'm trying to think of the right phraseology for this. There are people that have been doing this diet a hell of a lot longer than I have, and I learned a lot from those guys. People that just have experience on the ground, and their conclusion was, after doing this for 10, 15, 20, 30 years in some cases, that it's not necessary. And I tend to, in some cases, put more stock in people's individual lived collective wisdom and experience than the academics in many ways. And there's people come in there saying, oh, well, this carnivore diet is deficient in, X, Y, or Z, selenium and manganese and folate and this and that, and therefore I must consume, you can remember early on where people were telling you to eat eggshells, right? I mean, how stupid is that? Realistically, I mean, there's people that tell you, yeah, who the hell would actually eat eggshells in real life? Oh, you're gonna be chewing up bones too. That's just stupid. I mean, it's like it doesn't pass the common sense test. Just so you can check those RDA boxes, which are based on not even the right population, guys. So anyway, it's a long way to talk about that. But yeah, I don't like organs. I've had plenty. I've had them cooked very well by professional chefs, and the best I can say, David Unwin cooked me up some lamb's liver, which I have to say was not horrible. It wasn't like, ooh, it's so good, I gotta have more of it. But it was like, I really didn't want it. David was just like, well, let me cook up some lambs. I'm polite. David's such a nice guy. He's in the UK. And I'm like, okay, I'll eat it. So I eat it, and it was like, okay. It wasn't like, ooh, this is great. It wasn't like just something that blows you away. But I get it. Some people like it. Some people are used to it. I just don't like it. All right, where else we got here? We got Holy Ghost Shell, no sugar Shell. Hi, Dr. Baker. Well, hi, Shell. Polish Mike. Hello, eating my meal now. 3 pounds of fatty meat. That's a big meal. And we've got Holy Ghost saying, hi, Polish Mike. I'm Polish. Shell. Lynn Tucker Carnivore. Exactly. That could be personal responsibility. And we got Heidi Beautiful People's first live with Shawn, Josephine C. Well, good to see you, Josephine. I kind of do these sporadically. I should probably do them on a more regular basis, but I mean, I just trying to fit everything in. I just kind of do it when I get a moment. So I apologize for not having a regular schedule. I know some of the other folks tend to do that more, but I'm just too all over the place right now. Maybe one day I'll get on a schedule. All right, we got the A1 Meat Eater Kid. I'm running sprints today at an all-comers track meet here in Corvallis, Oregon. 6-7-year-old. I'm carnivore, puts me in the elite class. There you go, man. Good luck to you. Let us know how you do. I'm looking. I might end up doing some of that. I said when I turn 60, I've got a couple goals. With regard to track, sub 13 second 100 and a sub 60 second 400, which I think I can do. I mean, I'm big. I'm a big guy. I'm sitting at about 260 right now, and I was running a pretty comfortable 16 second 100 on one of those assault runner things, which is the accuracy of that is. I know some people say it's harder, some people say it's easier. Not sure. It's kind of hard to keep your balance a little bit on those things. So I think, and that's comfortable. That's just all like I'm just trying to maintain sub muscle pulling threshold. I know if I really ramp it up and try to run like a 14, I'd probably pull a hamstring or quad. So I got to slowly build into that. So I'm doing the A skips and the skips, and just got to, and of course got to lose weight. I got to get down, probably 240-ish, maybe 235, and then I should be positioned pretty well where I can do those things. And I've done them all at some point in my life. I mean, last time I ran a sub 13 second 100 meters, I was probably a 14-year-old kid. Probably the only time. I think I only did one track meet as a freshman in high school. And I think I ran a 12-100 or something like that. And then I never did it again. So, but I mean, I think I ran a 4.6, 40 back when I was playing professional rugby. So I got some pretty decent wheels, but it's from being 20s to being 60 is a difference, right? All right, there's a $5 super chat from NAV, NVA. Day 40 carnivore line, last 7 days. How long does it take to get fat adapted, still dealing with a few loose stools? Well, I mean, typically 3 to 8 weeks is what many people will see. Now, as far as the loose stools go, I mean, fat adaptation is really the ability to. The way I describe fat adaptation is it's not digestively, it's more metabolically. That is, you are running with fat, your appetite is stable. You could conceivably go a long period of time without eating and feel pretty comfortable. If I told you tomorrow, hey, you don't get to eat, that shouldn't stress you out too much. I mean, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, I can deal with that. I mean, I often travel, and I'm like, if it's crappy, and yet most of the time, I never eat on planes because it's usually like some stupid biscuit, or do you want the vegetarian option, or some crappy dry piece of chicken with some other suspect ingredients. So I generally don't eat. But as far as loose stools go, I mean, it could be that there's some primary gut issue, IBS, IBD, some low-level infection. But more often than not, it's just fat malabsorption. And I think there's some things that you can do to kind of play with that. And while fat is incredibly important on a carnivore diet, I mean, that's where your energy comes from, right? If you're not eating carbs or you're eating minimal carbs, you got to get energy from somewhere, and that somewhere usually is fat. Protein. While we can convert some protein into energy, it's not efficient. We got to utilize a lot of it as structural materials, but first, and so the energy portion of it is not great. So the fat becomes our energy, and knowing that you need X amount to be able to, a certain amount of fat to run your system. Let's just say for argument's sake, for ease of math, that you need 200 grams of fat a day to have energy. That's about 1,800 calories. Remember, there's 9 calories per gram of fat. And, and if you don't believe in calories, well, you need some amount, right? You can just call it volume. Let's say it's, 300 grams or whatever, 200 grams, whatever it is. And let's say you only absorb 75 grams in one setting. Well, if you can only absorb 75 and you need 200 and you're trying to do it all in 2 meals, well, maybe 25 of it ends up in the toilet, and then you're not absorbing it. It's a waste of energy. And then the other thing is like rendered fat. Rendered fat in particular tends to overwhelm the system more. Let's think about how the stomach works, right? The stomach takes a big hunk of food. Like if I cut up a steak and I chew it up and swallow it, it's still relatively solid-ish, certainly not been turned to liquid. So the stomach has to sit there and churn and break it down. And usually the time in the stomach's about 3 or 4 hours and it's bathed in acid. And then little by little that food is turned into liquid, and little by little it enters that first part of the intestine called the duodenum. And then slowly it winds its way through the length of the small intestine and gets absorbed. But if you eat a bunch of rendered fat, like pure liquid fat, bacon grease, hamburger grease, even butter, as soon as it hits your gut, it's liquefied. So the stomach has very little it needs to do to it. Then it just kind of all gets dumped into the small intestine at a higher rate, and then that sometimes can overwhelm us. And so when that occurs, we end up just having it end up in the toilet in many cases. So those are some of the things I'd look at. So thanks for the question. I appreciate the super chat, by the way. All right, let me just go to the next question here. All right. We got Carmen Alvarez saying greetings from Covina, California. Grace says she's enjoying the post and the information. Well, I appreciate it. Holy Ghost show, lifting weights, feels good to be back. There you go. I mean, I think, just, do it in an intelligent, progressive way. Don't try to hurt yourself. I mean, that's one thing people, they start feeling so good on carnivore, sometimes they hurt themselves. Just be careful about that. So just progressing just a stepwise, not too aggressive way, but get there. I mean, you got to progress. So that's the whole point. I mean, people are like, like they're looking at me lifting heavy weights and they're like, that's bad for you. And I'm like, well, I'm doing it for 20 repetitions. So first of all, it's not that heavy for me, even though it's a heavy weight. If I can do it 20 times, it's not heavy for what my system can handle. But anyway, we got Mackenzie. My doctor recommended I try carnivore. Today is my first day being keto and on and off. All right. Well, one, kudos for your doctor for recommending. And I don't know what the goal is you're trying to treat, but good for you. Go, get into it, get some kind of sort of support. I'm glad you got a supportive doctor. Like I said, I'll just put in another plug for Revero. If you guys want supportive doctors and coaches and, a team that will be there every day, text you, talk to you, that's a good option if you're so interested. But if not, get in one of them. There's lots of communities. I have a community, Carnivore.diet. I mean, there's a lot of other communities out there that people have that can be helpful. I mean, some of them, I got to tell you, I mean, and I'll be honest, some people say things about carnivore that just, I think they're a little too absolute about, and they're maybe perhaps misleading people about things. And I should do a video about things I think are just, where people just bring it too far and they don't really caveat things in the correct way. Anyway, Roscoe P. Coltrane. I don't know. That's from the Dukes of Hazzard, sounds like, but Roscoe P. Co. How was Cattleman's Gala? It was nice. It was good. It was a big event, man. There was like 2,000 people at this thing. It was huge. Nice concert afterwards with this guy. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting the guy's name. McCollum. Anyway. Couple country music acts were there that we watched afterwards. A concert right next to it. Good time. I mean, it was, it's a typical, it's a fundraiser. They raised $300,000 for feeding the hungry in South Dakota and feeding them a lot of beef, which was awesome to see. But I got to talk to a lot of the cattle influencers, if you will, people within the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, various members from foundations. And, I think they're in alignment that we're going to get some of this research done, which is the reason I went up there to try to sort of spur that on. So that's good. Carrie Mann's doing Ombre AM push-ups November now. New challenge. I'm not sure. Ombre AM push-ups. I'm not sure what that is, but anyway, good for Carrie. Carrie's a good guy. I like Carrie a lot. He's a nice fellow. Okay, we got another super chat for $10 from Stink Ass Cat. I like the name. Thanks for everything you do. You've been an inspiration to me. Well, thanks, Stink Ass. Like I said, I'm just trying to, I walk the walk and I try to, be as ethical and honest as I can. Not try to tell people things that, you guys know I'm not very dogmatic about this. I'm a huge proponent of carnivore diet, but I'm not here to tell you it's going to make you live forever. I'm not here to tell you that you're never going to get cancer, never going to get heart disease, or some of the things that I hear people saying, which I think is, I've got some concerns about. I should probably do a video about that. But thanks for the recognition and that stuff. And honestly, I mean, the reason I do this is because of people that I like, you guys, hearing these tremendous life-changing, life-altering things. I think it's possible that we can really change things if enough of us just get together and take it upon ourselves, which is what we have to do. Let me jump on over to this other super chat here. It's from Nav again. How can you eat so much at once? I saw you said you ate 6 pounds of steak in one sitting on Rogan's. No issue with fat absorption. Gosh, how can I eat so much? I've always been a big eater. I mean, I can put it down. Now, I mean, what can I eat comfortably, right? I mean, yeah, I went to a Brazilian restaurant one time and I think I literally, I ate 50, they come by your plate and I was just like, I was by myself, literally. I was in Denver. I remember. I was sitting by myself. And I was like, well, I'm just going to sit here. I'm just going to count. Sometimes I do weird things. Like the other day, I counted how many times my dog peed. And I was walking Maximus around in California, and he was like peeing. I was like, how many times does this damn dog pee? So I made it a point to count how many times he peed in a day. Like I took him on like 3 walks, and he peed 47 times that day. So it's like crazy. But so I was sitting in Denver at I think it was Fogo de Chao, or it might have been Texas Bay, Brazil. I can't remember. But sitting there and I just started counting, and I was like, because I'm by myself. I had a little pencil. I remember I was making check marks every time I ate one of their, they usually give you like I don't know, an ounce or 2 serving, something like that. So I'm not sure what it adds up to, but I ate 50 of them. And, I mean, I was pretty damn stuffed. I didn't feel great afterwards. I was like, and I think I didn't even eat the next day. So I went like 36 hours without eating afterwards. So it's not, I don't prefer eating that way. It was sometimes I'll do that just on a goofy thing. But I mean, I can easily eat 2 pounds of steak very comfortably. That's kind of like a typical, often sized meal for me. Right now, I'm kind of dialing it back a little bit because like I said, I'm trying to get down to the just 240 range. Now it's going to take me months and months to do that because I'm trying to maintain muscle mass and all those things. So, I'm in no hurry. But yeah, I can eat a lot. I've always been a big eater, but always been a big. I mean, at one point I was 6'5". I mean, I'm still 6'5". At one point I was, I think 305 when I topped out, and I routinely would go to restaurants. And I mean, I'm not without exaggeration. I'd walk in, I'd have like 2 appetizers, and then I might eat 2 or 3 entrees, and then I would often have 2 desserts. If I couldn't decide between the desserts, I was like, there's, you get to the restaurant and you're like, man, that dessert looks good. So does that one. Which one do I want? Well, hell, I'll just have both. I mean, that was back in the day. I don't do that stuff anymore, obviously. But anyway, yeah, so I can eat a lot. Thanks. All right, what other questions we got here? All right, I work 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. When would be the best time to eat? Yeah, that's a tough one because, we have this circadian biology that we're supposed to be working in the day-night cycle. So you're completely reversed on that, essentially, right? So, I mean, I think it's better to eat when you're moving. I mean, during whatever your active time, because then you can dispose of all the potential glucose that occurs. I think the worst thing you can do is just get home from work, eat a big meal, and go to sleep. That's probably suboptimal. So probably eat before you work, after you get up, that type of thing. All right. All right. Okay. What else we got here? All right, we got another one, another $5 super chat from NKS432. It's kind of a cryptic name. Dr. Baker, I know you do carnivore, but is a low-carb diet, less than 100 grams a day, plus high protein still better than the SAD? Yeah, I mean, gosh, anything's better than the standard American diet. I mean, I would even go as far as to say as a vegan diet in some cases, depending on how. I mean, because, the standard American diet is just garbage. I mean, it's 71% ultra processed food. I mean, it's devoid of nutrition. So yeah, I mean, if you're eating kind of a whole food diet, you're eating a decent amount of protein, high quality food, yes, it's going to be better. Now, I mean, again, depending on what you're dealing with, if you're dealing with some autoimmune disease where you have certain sensitivities, if you're dealing with food addiction, I mean, a lot of people, they can't moderate, and that becomes the issue. It's just like, well, if I could just eat one cookie, then maybe I could have cookies, but I can't do that. I mean, many people can, and the food companies know it because they've designed it. They've designed it so it's that way. So I mean, you just have to, what can you realistically do, and then assess. I mean, that's a good starting point. Certainly. I mean, there are people where most people have tried that. I mean, to be honest, most people have tried to clean up their diet a little bit, and it usually doesn't end. It often doesn't end well. I mean, it often ends up backsliding and just So sometimes the extreme is necessary just to purge things, just to kind of change. I mean, I think really, and I should talk about this for a second. I think really it's about changing your relationship with food, right? Because why do we think about why do we need to eat? I mean, there are things we have to do. Why do we? I mean, realistically, why we need to eat is because we need essential protein, we need essential fat, we need some energy, right? We got to have some energy, so we got to get calories from something, either protein or carbohydrates. We have to have vitamins, we have to have minerals, we have to have water, and then there's some conditionally nutrients that are conditionally potentially beneficial. But other than that, that's why we eat. Now, why does many people eat is because they're bored, because they're stressed, because the man on the TV told them to, because their friends, they're going out to eat, because they're watching TV, because it's 5 o'clock or whatever, it's normal lunchtime or whatever. We eat for reasons that are not necessary in many cases, out of habit. And so you got to figure out how to change your relationship. And until you do that, you're going to be kind of, people talk about how restrictive carnivore can be, but it's ultimately very liberating, very freeing, because then you become free from these cravings, free from these compulsions, free from the societal pressures of what you should eat and when you should eat and how you should eat and why you should eat. And once you do that, that it's really almost like a superpower, because now you have the ability to kind of, I mean, you think about how often do you just subconsciously eat? You just mindlessly wander into the fridge or the cabinet and just start eating without really even, almost like in a trance, almost like a trance-like state in many cases. Um, Getting away from that is incredibly powerful. So then now when you decide to eat something, it becomes very deliberate. And I mean, I don't think a lot about food right now because my food is damn the same thing every day. I mean, it's a steak. What am I going to eat? Steak. It's like I look in the I open I go to my chest freezer. I look at what's in there, grab a steak, throw it into sous vide, go work in the morning. Sous vide for a while, and then I throw it on the I got a couple of my grills over. That's my grills are over there. I go over there and throw it in the grill, and that's it. That's it. I don't think about food a lot. All right. Is a 3-day fast good to do once in a while? Says Patrick. I guess it depends on who you are and what your needs are. I mean, 3 days is probably okay. I mean, again, I think fasting can be helpful for a lot of people, particularly people that are obese. That's a reasonable thing. But I think that um, you know caveats. When you're losing weight, exercise. Please do some resistance training while you're fasting. I think that's helpful. All right, well, there's another $10 super chat here from Amber Wagner. Hello, Dr. Baker. I love seeing all of your shorts. Have you seen that the DoD gave millions of biomade to produce lab-grown protein for the military fellow vet? Uh, no, I haven't seen that. I've not heard biomade. I don't know why. I mean, it's kind of stupid. I mean, honestly, I mean, it's doesn't surprise me though. I mean, the military is becoming for lack of a better word, the guinea pig playground for some of these stupid projects. Well, I won't talk about some of the stuff that happened recently, but um, it's we see that. I mean, we see like 10 years ago, 5, 10, 7 years ago, they were pouring lots and lots of money in this alternative protein, plant-based proteins, um, really pushing it hard. And by and large, the population rejected it. I mean, we can see that. Beyond Meat stock is tanked. Impossible Burger's going nowhere. All these, the entire category. There's a guy named Julian Mellenton, who is a pretty insightful guy in this stuff, and he's just shown that the entire sector is down like 25% from where it was like 2 years ago, and most of these companies can't turn a profit. They're laying off people. Despite that, the government keeps pouring money into it. I mean, there's less private capital going in there because the private guys want ROI. They want a return on their investment. And so the government is like, well, we'll just give them some money and try to push this because it's part of this someone's agenda, right? There's probably some lobbyists that are kind of pushing for that. So, but I mean, the reality is, I mean, we got damn good protein. It's called cow meat, or sheep meat or whatever, chickens and pigs and, whatever, goat, deer, whatever. I mean, God already made it all for us. I mean, it's there. We don't need to, bastardize it with some chemical concoction. But anyway, I mean, it's just, you know, we got to do what we can do. I mean, we all have to first put our own houses in order, and then we can sort of hopefully influence other people. And that's the best thing you can do is like lead by example. That's what I try to do. And, just consistently, do that. And the other thing is, I talk about, we got elections coming up. Obviously, I think there's presidential debates on. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe tomorrow night, I think there's a CNN debate. Whoever wins or gets put in office, depending on what you believe, anyway, the odds of them suddenly, doing the right thing when it comes to food is extremely low, right? Extremely low. I mean, there's some people like, I know Kennedy and his running mate Shanahan have been talking pretty hard about that. But, I mean, it's unlikely they'll get elected regardless, just because of the two-party system that we have. Or some people would say a uniparty system, depending on how you listen to things. So you got to take care of it yourself. I mean, you just we've got to, oh yeah, so the voting, but you get to vote every day by what you buy. About when you go to the grocery store and you buy crap, oh, it's for my kids need a treat. Well, guess what? Yeah, maybe your kids need a treat. Why don't you give them diabetes? Why don't you make them sick, make them addicted to this crappy food? And oh, by the way, now you're giving that company more money, so they have more power over you. So I try to avoid that at all costs, as much as I can. All right. Dog food industry is using lab meat. Yeah, poor dogs. Bugs, lab meat. My dogs, just like my dogs eat meat. That's what they eat, and people see my dogs and they can't believe how old they are. When I tell them my Sasha's 12, they look at me like, wow, she looks amazing. And it's true, because most 12-year-old labs are fat. They smell bad. They're old looking. They're arthritic, and she's still trotting around like a young dog. So anyway, what else we got? We got AO saying I don't have scurvy yet. I don't think so. I mean, maybe some of the signs of scurvy are deadlifting 421 pounds for 20 reps at age 57. Maybe I have scurvy if that's it. Juju, 11 days in, having horrible headaches. All right, well, that's probably due to dehydration. I had some, when I started carnivore back in 2016, that was one of the things I had. I had some, I wouldn't call them horrible headaches. They were kind of mild, just a little bit of like, I could just feel like my head was a little bit sore in the back. And in retrospect, that was probably due to fluid and electrolyte shifts that were going on. So make sure you're getting plenty of fluid and electrolyte. That often will offset that. That's probably the major thing I would tell you. I mean, I can't say there could be other things that cause headaches. So just that's what I could say there. All right, what else we got here? All right, Lisa Lyons. I am so confused about getting my ketones up, but then I have getting my ketones up, but then I have eat less protein and really high fat, but I want to eat more protein because it helps my development of muscles. Well, why do you feel compelled that you have to have your ketones super high? What is your goal? I mean, if you said like, if you were to like write down what's important to you, like just for being happy, for being whatever you deem to be healthy, high ketones wouldn't be on there. I mean, I mean, if you didn't know what a ketone was, which 10 years ago, most people didn't never even heard of a ketone, it wouldn't even be on your radar for what makes you feel good. It's like, am I happy? Do I feel like I'm rested? Do I have good sleep? Do my joints hurt? Am I, on and on and on. So the ketones are not really the goal. And so I wouldn't worry about, I mean, if you feel that eating more protein is allowing you to have more muscle, which I think is far more important than a ketone level, as far as a marker of health. I mean, there's biomarkers which are highly variable, highly fluctuant. We're not even sure what they all mean. And then there's kind of obvious things. I mean, you think about it, if I can change my cholesterol 150 points in 24 hours, that's like, well, how important is that how important is that metric? How much can I change my belly fat significantly in 24 hours? No. I mean, that's going to take me months and months. So, I mean, think about longer term things. All right, let me go over to Nav4. He's got another uh, super chat. Let me see if I can find it. Where did it go? I lost it. Oh, shoot. How do I find the super chats? Crap. Nav, I apologize. I don't know. Shoot. How do I find the super chats? Okay, maybe. Okay, hang on a second. I see something here. I don't know, Nav, if that. I apologize if I can't find it. I'm gonna look for it. Jacob King. Well, I guess wow, they didn't appear. I apologize, guys. There's some super chats that are like in the thing. I'm just gonna scroll through so make sure I don't lose them. Okay, there's one from Nav back there. Here's one that says, I got Amber's already. Jacob King, how bad is real peanut butter? I mean, it's probably not that good to eat. I mean, it's easy to overconsume. It's not, I mean, honestly, I think peanut butter is probably not something you should probably eat much. It tastes good. I mean, it's delicious, easy to overconsume. Um, it's you like, is it as bad as, you know, blue artificially flavored Captain Crunch maple syrup? No, but it's probably, you know, if I were to give like steak an A grade, I'd probably give peanut butter a C minus, or something like that. All right, hang on a second. Let me get. All right, dang it. I'm going to try to keep up on these super chats, guys. I apologize. Brian Cumpting, 4 weeks on a line diet. How well does carnivore do for GERD and acid reflux? Yeah, that's a good question. It can do very well. And what is driving reflux? Reflux is typically driven by pressure. Where is that pressure coming from? It's often coming from gas in the intestines. And you get gas and you blow it out your butt or you belch it up. But that pressure is causing that lower esophageal sphincter, which connects the esophagus to the stomach, to blow open, and then that allows that acid to kind of drift up into the esophagus. So if you can reduce the fermentation, the gas pressure in your guts, and how do you do that? You get out sugars, fibers, foods. When those go away, generally the reflux improves significantly. Now, the caveat to that will be if you have fat malabsorption. So if you're over consuming fat, you're eating too much rendered fat, too much fat in one setting, then that can still lead to irritation, bloating, and so on and so forth. And dairy products too can sometimes do that. So if you can eliminate the fibers, the sugars, the gas producing foods, if you can moderate your fat to the point where it's not causing digestive bloating, if you can limit or eliminate dairy, I think you'll have a pretty good success with that. So anyway, it's another $5 chat, and it just says nothing. 3. What? Well, anyway, Randy Gerald, thank you for that. I'm not sure if you have a question, but if you do, I'll try to find it. So let me just. For some reason, these things are. Sorry, I apologize. I'm having technical. Molly's Madness says thanks for all you do. Well, Molly, thank you. Appreciate that. I want to find that one from now. I apologize. I lost it. I'm just going to scroll through here. Where did it go? Maybe it disappeared. I'm not sure. Sorry, guys. John Jones, how's your calcium intake, Sean? I'm very interested in this. I hope to see my message. I know there's bone broth, but dairy, I don't like. It's gut irritating. So where's your calcium coming from? Yeah, so calcium, that's a good question. Amber O'Hearn, who is for you guys who don't know, is quite a prolific, what's the word I'm looking for? Prolific she has a lot of insight into carnivore. She's been doing it for a long time. She's very much in the camp of high fat, though, for sure. And there's not that there's anything wrong with that. But she wrote a paper, scientific paper on the carnivore diet, talking about is it nutritionally adequate. And her conclusion was that yes, it's nutritionally adequate in every aspect you can think of, with the exception of possibly calcium. And the I mean, full disclosure, I do still eat some dairy from time to time. Right now, I'm eating cottage cheese, quite honestly, as a lean source of dairy as I'm leaning out. But in general, we know that calcium is absorbed at a higher rate when we eat more protein. So there is calcium in meat itself. Not a ton, but there's some. We also know that the RDA for calcium in many cases may be overestimated. This is based on work of all people, Walter Willett, who's the Harvard epidemiologist who's been constantly demonizing animal foods. But what he has shown that instead of the RDA of 1,000 milligrams a day or 1,500 milligrams a day if you're a lactating female or broken bone or something like that, it may be as low as 200 milligrams a day, so much lower than we might actually think it is. I've yet to see somebody with either hypocalcemia on carnivore. I've never seen that. And that honestly, that would be very hard to do because your body very easily maintains calcium levels. I mean, if worst came to worst, it can take some out of the bone. But initially, when we saw high protein diets, we saw more calcium in the urine. The assumption was it was leaching, causing it to be leached from the bones. But the reality is, they later discovered that it was actually high protein diets or higher protein diets, like a carnivore diet, lead to increasing calcium absorption. Now, the other thing is we have to realize is that, like many minerals, the absence of fiber and things like of that nature, absence of phytic acid, the absence of some of these other compounds which bind calcium are no longer there. So you're going to be absorbing much more calcium than you normally would. So I think it's a combination of probably needing less, absorbing more, and I mean, I just think it's not a big issue. I don't think you need to eat eggshells. I don't think you need to eat bones, as some people suggested. I just have not seen it be a real issue. Okay, I've got a $10 chat from NKS432 again. I have reversed diabetes with low carb lifting and 10,000 steps a day. I lost 40 pounds, but the weight loss is slow and I want to get rid of another 20 pounds and get back to MMA training. Will carnivore be able to help? Well, maybe. I mean, I can't, like I said, it depends on what else you do. I mean, here's the deal. Carnivore isn't the magic button for weight loss. I mean, as much as people are out there promoting it, yeah, I lost 90 pounds effortlessly. And I mean, for some people, yes, because you end up stimulating things like GLP-1, like these Ozempic drugs. It's kind of like nature's Ozempic, right? Yes, it can do that for people. But like I've been doing this diet for 7.5, 8 years now, and I will tell you, in order for me to lean out at this point, because all the hormonal shifts and metabolic changes that occur when I went from whatever omnivorous diet to carnivore have happened. It happened a long time ago. Now you might get an initial, depending on what your baseline diet was, you might get an initial um, uh, change metabolically, so that it becomes easier, higher protein, more thermic effective food, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you're going to find that at some point, to get shredded, to get if you want ripped abs, you're going to have to cut back on the amount of food you eat a little bit. Probably for most people, dial the protein up, dial the fat a little bit down. But again, at the beginning, it's more along the lines of just getting used to the diet, changing the relationship with food, which I talked about. But I think it's certainly possible. But I don't think, just by automatically eating carnivore, you're going to be like some shredded Greek god. It's just not likely going to happen. All right, we've got a couple more super chats I'm going to jump over to real quick, see if I can answer these quickly. A5, can carnivore restore vision, repair eyes? Any ideas on mechanism? Depends. I think some people have seen improvements in things like nearsightedness. Some people have seen improvements in glaucoma pressure. We've seen some people with early cataracts seem to reverse some of that thing. So yeah, I think some of those things are. It might be the glycation of the lens or the tissues. It might be the restoration of the flexibility of the eye itself. We change our, our eyes actually get longer and shorter due to muscular contraction when we focus. Our eye gets longer and shorter, and that's how it works. So yes, it is possible. There's probably people that can confirm that, but let me go on over to this other question from R here. Thoughts on histamine intolerance? How would I know if I have histamine intolerance, and how would I fix it? Antihistamines, take a DAO. Well, I mean, histamine is got a sort of a broad histamine intolerance or histamine issues have kind of broad presentation. Some people will get flushing, some people have gastrointestinal upset, some people have headaches, some people will get other manifestations, and so it could be a lot of things that cause that. So it's hard to say, but I mean, yeah, I mean, histamine containing meats are things that are like aged meats, preserved meats, things like that. So you can try to see if that helps. The DAO enzymes, the diamine oxide enzyme, can be potentially beneficial. I think that, it's probably not that common. It does happen. So you just have to experiment and see. I don't think there's an easy test you can do that shows you, if you're histamine intolerant or not. So it's kind of a lot of trial and error, unfortunately. But those things are all possible to try it. I think that some of these things are probably related to just general overall health, and histamine. I mean, we've got all these immune reactions that improve our body when our body is healthier in general. Um, things just don't break as much. I know it sounds kind of simplistic, but that is kind of the case. So I mean, getting good sleep and exercising and lining yourself up with circadian biology and being not sedentary, and on and on and on. Let me jump over to this one here from NG 1989. Canadian $13. I'm not sure what that equals on these days. I don't know what the exchange rate is, but anyway, thanks for that. Hi, Doc. Been carnivore for 11 weeks. Massive weight loss and health improvements. The one bad thing is my psoriasis went from bad to very bad. Ever hear of that before? Thank you. Um, not it's not the typical course. Usually we see it improve. Psoriasis in particular, I'd say about 50% of the people within a month see significant improvement in their psoriasis. However, the rest of the folks, 3 months, 6 months, sometimes longer, for it to see an improvement. Now, sometimes you mentioned massive weight loss. Um, that can sometimes be. I mean, that can be somewhat stressful to the body sometimes. I mean, we see people that precipitate gallbladder attacks with massive weight loss. So it could be. I mean, anytime you change the diet, it is somewhat stressful to the body. I suspect that it's probably just somewhat of a stress response, but I suspect that will probably improve with time. Now, there's other things you can do with psoriasis, which I mean, of course, there's medications, there's light therapy, things like that. Maximize all those other things like we talked about: sleeping, avoiding sedentary time, general exercise, and to see how you go from there. I mean, it's hard to say. Guys, and I know this, I feel kind of rushed on some of these things because, this the way this format is. I do one-on-one consults. I mean, there's a link in my bio if you guys want to talk for a longer time. I can certainly talk to you because sometimes it's hard to answer questions based on just such little information. But yeah, I mean, generally, 3 months, 6 months, most people will resolve most of their psoriasis. Let me go over this other super chat here. It's from Spencer Guffrey, 30 days depression free. Thank you. Do you recommend multivitamins and electrolytes? Well, I'm glad to hear the depression is lifting. That's so awesome. And we know clearly that diet has a big impact on that. I think electrolytes, can be helpful, particularly if you sweat a lot, like I do. I mean, I'm always exercising. I just got done. I mean, if you're, I mean, I think it can be helpful. I think it can be helpful during the transition period as you have these fluid and electrolyte shifts. Multivitamins, I'm not so excited about. Most of these kind of synthetic multivitamins have been shown to be not very effective, and in many cases, in some cases, harmful. So, yes, on the electrolytes potentially, multivitamin probably not. All right, guys, let's see, we're going to go for another we've been going, what, 49 minutes? I'll go another 10 minutes and see what else we come up with here. So, um, Cowgirl in Arizona, I'm pregnant and just want to ask you what kinds of meat will be the most beneficial to my baby and my body. My goal is to eat 120 grams of protein. Thank you. Um, well, I think certainly beef is good. I think beef can be good. I mean, I think fish can be good. I think I would be careful with things like some of the livers and things like that. I know that's, I mean, obviously, you don't want to eat raw meat. I know there's people that'll get mad at me for me saying that because they think raw meat is the way to go. But I think that, you know, fat is important. Your baby's not in there becoming a bodybuilder. Your baby's growing its brain right now, right? So fatty meat is going to be helpful to you. That's really as much as you tolerate. Now you may or may not tolerate a lot depending on what you're again what stage you're in. If you're in the first trimester, that tends to be pretty dicey for a lot of women. A lot of women struggle with particularly as that beta HCG level goes up, they struggle with a lot of nausea and vomiting. But once you get into that second, third trimester, you know, those things are important. I mean, you don't have to go crazy on the fat, but just get a good, if you're eating 120 grams of protein, try to at least get that much in fat, maybe a little more. And then obviously, and I don't know what I mean, if you're a normal size woman, generally recommended is what, 20, 25 pounds of weight gain during the pregnancy. If you're obese, then you may not need to gain any weight at all. I mean, I don't know what again, I can't tell from your name what that might be, but yeah, that's kind of how you go with that. All right, what else do we got here? Greetings from Poland and good health. All right, awesome. All right, do I feed my dogs meat? I do feed my dogs meat, and they love it, and they're doing well. K New York, is it healthy to eat your dog? Interesting question. Um, I don't know. I've never tried it. Why don't you try it and get back with me and tell me how it goes? All right. Most soil is depleted of calcium. All right, what else do we have? All right, we got looks like a $20 super chat here. Gunter, Gunter SB. This is my first month of line. I'm naturally skinny fat. When I had more muscle in the past from weight training, my belly became even bigger. I care more about losing the belly than gaining the muscle size. What can I do? Um, yeah, so I mean, I think I mean, this is something that, like everybody's dream is to put on muscle and lose body fat. That's hard to do. I mean, it literally is. I mean, it takes a lot of work and time. Resistance training, I think, is still incredibly important. I would focus on minimize sedentary behavior as much as you can. When you're sitting, be standing. If you're standing, be walking as much as you can. I would eat earlier in the day rather than later in the day for the simple reason is that you can utilize the nutrients, particularly the glucose that might arise from any kind of glycogenolysis that's being stimulated by glucagon from consuming protein. So you can you're moving, you're moving quite a bit. So you got to be active. You got to move, avoid sedentary behavior. You're going to have to, I mean, you need enough fat to run your machine, but if you eat too much fat, you're going to get fat. I mean, I know there's people disagree with me on that, but that's the long-term reality. Now, first month of lion diet, just transition things, you may just run with that and automatically just naturally lose weight. There will be a point, 6 weeks, 3 months, 6 months in where you're going to find that you may have to transition to playing with those macronutrients, often in favor of a little more protein, a little less fat. So those are things you can think about. It's not a well, I mean, it's not just going to happen overnight. But I mean, I would, like I said, maintain that lean mass, get after it in the gym, stay strong. Um, don't be sent. Most of the fat burning is going to occur from what you eat and just not being sedentary. Right? Those are the things that are going to make the biggest difference there. All right, let me see. There was a $5 thing that I lost. I don't know where it went. Let me see if I can find it. I guess I have to scroll down. Let's see. Keep scrolling. There it is. Randy Gerald. What causes itchiness on carnivore? What causes itchiness on carnivore? Well, I don't know if there's any unique thing to itchiness. What could be potentially going on is relative dehydration. Sometimes, if you are deeply in ketosis, and how do you treat dehydration? Well, fluid and electrolytes. Sometimes ketones as they are excreted through the skin, which they can be itchy. And so those are probably the two major things. Some people will develop, things like dairy products can sometimes lead to rashes, and sometimes that's, before you have itchiness. I mean, those are the major things that I think could be directly related to diet that I can think of off the top of my mind. Some people will have issues with, some people call it oxalate dumping or things like that. I'm not sure exactly how frequently that occurs. Sally Norton will tell you it occurs on everybody all the time. I'm not convinced that's necessarily true, but those are the major things. So if you're in deep ketosis, it could just be ketones in the skin. It could be dryness due to just lack of hydration. So those are things you could potentially play with. So anyway, all right. Rob Lacera is asking about ocular migraines, but I don't know if I believe it. I think ocular migraines do exist. I mean, they're a pretty well described phenomenon, so I'm not sure. Um, Generally, for the most part, they're considered benign. I mean, sometimes they can be associated with more problematic things, but I think generally they're benign. Any kind of vitamin deficiencies lead to visual problems. We classically talk here about vitamin A deficiency and visualist, but dim vision, and I'm not sure exactly how you describe that. I don't know for sure, unfortunately. So, um, I'd have probably more questions before I could really intelligently answer that. So NK432, $5. I listened to Dr. Norton. His message isn't balanced, and he uses studies on unrealistic constraints. I want low carb listening to you. Thank you. Dr. Norton. Is that Lane Norton, I guess? I'm not sure which Dr. Norton that is. I assume that's maybe Lane Norton. Uh, yeah, I think much of what he says has some validity to it, but he tends to be over blustery and sometimes, just for attention in a way. Likes to be loud and call everybody idiots and everyone zealots and again, I think your point about the constraints is, the studies we have most often are not based on the population that we are looking at. If you're studying mice and you want data on horses, it's like, well, there's some overlap, but so if you're studying people that are standard American diet, Mediterranean diet, I think there's significant enough differences where a lot of the assumptions don't necessarily apply. There are some carryover for sure, but I think there's a lot that doesn't actually work. All right, we got Chad Chartrand, another Canadian. I've been strict carnivore since April 12th after my diverticulous diagnosis. The majority of my stools are loose stools. Is it possible I may have bile malabsorption? Yeah, not only is it possible, it's maybe even probable. And so, Chad, I would just encourage you to play with your fat, the fats you're consuming. Again, preference whole fat like marbled steaks as opposed to rendered fat like grease. I would figure out how much you can tolerate per meal. It might only be something like 30 or 40 grams before you develop stools. So just find out what you can tolerate per meal, and how much and what type. Rendered fat usually being less well tolerated than whole fat, and then just kind of figure out what you need. And you just kind of figure out how much can I tolerate, how much do I need, how often do I need to eat to make that happen. So that's probably the easiest thing I would say. So but if you're still having, that could be one issue. It could be, it could be low level infections. It could be, the fact that you have a compromised gut with a diverticulosis. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know enough about you. And again, once again, I'll just say, guys, I do individual consultations. So if anybody's interested in that, we can certainly discuss in more detail. All right. NKS 432. Listen to Dr. Norton. Okay, so we already listened. We already talked about that one. All right, guys. Well, I'll tell you what. I've got. Well, we've knocked out an hour. I'm going to shut it down now, guys. Thanks for being listening in, and I appreciate all the super chats. And I will try to do this. I don't know. Hopefully, I can do it about once a week or so, something like that. Maybe at some point I'll get a schedule and make it a little easier. But sometimes it's doing it randomly allows different people in different time zones to join in. So, ever eat a tenderloin, lizard hunter? Yes, I eat tenderloin. Not that as much as I would like. Just good cut, but anyway, speaking of which, I'm gonna go say hi to my family, and I'm gonna eat a little bit more, and we will talk to you guys later. Take care. Thanks for subscribing and all that stuff.